One of the most overlooked players of the 2000s happens to be none other than Paul Pierce. The reason behind this really might be because of Paul Pierce himself. Known for his self-confidence, he places himself in an elite class of NBA legends, even though he was never really quite at that level. Recently, he made some remarks comparing himself to Dwyane Wade, suggesting that he was the superior player. He had a guest appearance on the show It Is What It Is, where Pierce actually doubled down on his take being better than Dwyane Wade. I say double down because the first comparison dates back to 2019, when Pierce publicly asserted that he had a better and more impressive career than Wade. Let's roll the clips.
Put Shaq on my team, put LeBron and Bosh with me. I'm not gonna win one. You don't think?
Ooh.
Yeah.
You got your shit on.
You put me, LeBron, and
Isaiah Thomas said.
Me, LeBron, and Bosh. We not gonna win one.
Yeah.
We not gonna win a couple.
Yeah.
So I'm saying
That's
though.
true. That's true.
So I'm saying though, like who's the better 3-point shooter?
Yeah.
Sure, that's
Yeah.
Is he a better scorer? Is he a better scorer? Okay, he averaged more points than me career. I can shoot the three.
He's a better slasher.
I can post up. I can get to the line. Who a better scorer?
Tail of the tape. Both NBA Finals MVP. You have him in career points. He's got more playoff points. You are a more clutch shooter overall. He's got more playoff points. Paul, riddle me this. Who's the better NBA player?
That's easy. I can say that off the bat. That's me. If you give me Shaq, if you give me LeBron,
They did. Call the big three.
we got that late, but like early in my career.
I mean, what are you doing right
If you
now?
give me these guys early in my career,
Well, let me ask you this. What would have been a perfect time for you, Paul? Let's make sure we get this
when I
right.
was 24 years old,
Okay.
you give me Shaq. When I'm 24, 25, you give me LeBron and Bosh. I'll be sitting on 5 or 6 championships, easy.
Now, it is undeniable that Paul Pierce had an illustrious career, earning a spot in the Hall of Fame and being named amongst the top 75 players of all time. However, let's not forget the greatness of Dwyane Wade, a player often regarded as one of the top 25 players in history and one of the greatest shooting guards of all time, and in my opinion, the third. Wade's list of accolades includes more championships, all-star selections, all-NBA teams, and all defensive teams than Paul Pierce. When we analyze their on-court performance, Dwyane Wade consistently outperformed Paul Pierce in head-to-head matchups. Wade's statistics spoke volumes, as he averaged 25.4 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 5.1 assists, nearly 2 steals and 1 block against Pierce. Though Pierce managed to beat Wade in a series back in 2010, it is important to note that Dwyane Wade's individual performance during that series was exceptional, still averaging 33 points on nearly 60% shooting, beating out Paul Pierce in their head-to-head matchup once again. Now, Pierce claims that his skills are underappreciated because he didn't have the privilege of playing alongside great players like Dwyane Wade did. While there is some truth to this, Pierce's step-back jumper and clutch time plays were indeed underrated. It doesn't automatically make him better or greater than Wade though. Looking back at Dwyane Wade's career, there was a period before LeBron James joined the team when Wade was a dominant force in the NBA. In 2009, he averaged an impressive 30.2 points along with 7.5 assists, 5 boards, 2.2 steals, and 1.3 blocks per game. During this time, he was arguably a top 3 player in the league. Now, comparing Wade's stats from 2009 to Pierce's career highs, it becomes evident that Wade outshines Pierce in almost every aspect. Even though Paul Pierce speculates that he would have been as good as Dwyane Wade had he been surrounded by players like Chris Bosh and LeBron James, such hypothetical arguments are hard to prove. While Pierce might have won a championship or two with that setup, it doesn't validate his claim of being better or greater than Dwyane Wade. Pierce attempts to argue that he was a better scorer than Wade due to his post moves, mid-range game, and three-point shooting, even though the numbers do not hold up to these statements. Peak Dwyane Wade was a top 5 scorer in the playoffs from 2005 to 2011, averaging 27.3 points on 49% shooting. Even during that same period, Pierce's scoring, though impressive at 24.5 points, came at a below average shooting percentage of 40.9%. Additionally, the fact that Wade's three-point shooting was better than Pierce's in his prime playoffs furthermore undermines the argument for Pierce being a better scorer. Now, beyond the numbers, it is vital to acknowledge that Dwyane Wade's greatness extended to clutch moments of the game. In 2009, he led the league in clutch time scoring, ahead of stars like LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. Wade's performance that year also earned him recognition as third in the MVP race and third on the Defensive Player of the Year ballot. Furthermore, he was named to the first team All-NBA and second team All-Defense, clinching the scoring title. While Pierce was undoubtedly a very talented player, there is no denying that 2009 Dwyane Wade was on another level of greatness. Wade's consistent excellence, his exceptional playoff performances, and his clutch time heroics makes him stand out as a player truly deserving of his high rank in NBA history. And now another recent instance of Dwyane Wade disrespect came from Jeff Teague when he was explaining his opinion on James Harden being better than Dwyane Wade. Let's roll the clip.
5'2" guard ever?
Yes,
Absolutely.
I got him over D Wade, but I'm out of pocket.
Yes, you are. But
if you think about it, when he by himself, like D Wade, he had Shaq, then he had Bron. He ain't never really been by himself. When Miami was by themselves, they was trash. I remember Joe and them was not like killing. They was going to have battles, Miami versus Atlanta.
Shout out to Brad and them, and you know, R.I.P. Kobe. But I was telling niggas when he first got with the Rockets by himself, bro,
it was
flipped
different.
the switch. Yeah.
And look, I know a lot of people talk about him now, which is still a all-star, by the way.
Yeah.
Prime James Harden was, look, he had to play one of the best teams in NBA history. If it wasn't for that, James Harden would have probably fucking got a ring in Houston because they had a perfect team.
He averaged 35 for like 5 straight years, like,
And how many assists?
and like 10 assists, bro. He better than D Wade, bro. I'm sorry, bro.
Teague is claiming that James Harden in his prime was superior to Dwyane Wade. While it is true that James Harden is a phenomenal player, there's absolutely no denying that, and he had some incredible scoring seasons from 2016 to 2020, averaging no less than 29 points per game. He also went on to win multiple scoring titles, in which he had back-to-back seasons of averaging 34 and 36 points per game. Harden's scoring during his peak can really rival with almost anyone, but there is a distinction that sets players like Wade apart. Now, during Wade's prime from 2005 to 2011, he averaged 27 points per game, which is comparable to Harden's scoring. And as I mentioned earlier, we know Wade had a season of averaging 30 points per game. Now, also mind you, this is during a time in which the pace was slower, less spacing, and just harder to score in general due to the aspects in the way that the game was played back then. We take a look at the efficiency gap next. Now, between the two players, it is noteworthy, with Wade shooting nearly 50% compared to Harden's mid-40s, and the efficiency is even greater when we look at solely playoff scoring. The playoff translation and playoff dropping between Harden and Wade is night and day. Now, the biggest separator is the defensive aspect, where Dwyane Wade shines brightly in this comparison. While both players' offensive abilities are quite close and comparable, defensively, Wade stands as a clear winner with no contest or debate. Wade is one of the greatest defenders at his position of all time, and he has multiple All-NBA defensive selections, which James Harden could never even dream of having. Now, Wade also showcased his brilliance at his absolute best during the 2006 finals,
Dwyane Wade.
scoring consistently in critical games and critical moments. Comparing this to Harden's playoff performances, Wade's impact on the big stage remains unparalleled. Even in the later years, post-2010, Dwyane Wade maintained his status as a top 5 player for a considerable period. In 2011, he shared the offensive load with LeBron James and Chris Bosh, and despite taking a slight step back in scoring, he was still Miami's best player throughout the playoffs, averaging 24.5 points on 48% shooting. Given the right circumstances and teammates, Dwyane Wade could have easily earned more championships and finals MVPs. The point being, during his prime in 2006 through 2011, Wade was better than any version of James Harden that we have seen so far, and that we will ever see, since James Harden is now on the tail end of his career. And James Harden is undoubtedly a great player, an icon for this generation, but his playoff blunders set him back compared to the elite Hall of Famers. In elimination games from 2015 to 2020, Harden averaged 27 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds on an abysmal 41% shooting, with some games seeing him drop even below 30%. On the other hand, prime Dwyane Wade from 2005 to 2011 recorded 30 points, 5 assists, 5.5 boards on 44% shooting in those elimination games. James Harden's greatness cannot be denied, and I'm not trying to do that, but when comparing him to top-tier Hall of Famers like Dwyane Wade, it becomes evident that Wade's playoff performances and defensive prowess elevated him to a higher level. Now, despite Harden's impressive stats, Wade's impact on the biggest stages and his well-rounded game make him truly exceptional. I think there is definitely more of an argument for Harden over Wade than Pierce, but to say either of them eclipsed Dwyane Wade, I just think is nonsense. I can see a much stronger argument if you're trying to say James Harden over Dwyane Wade than I do if someone's trying to say Paul Pierce over Dwyane Wade. And in this case, it's Paul Pierce himself trying to say that he had the better career and was the better player than Dwyane Wade. I just think that that is definitely completely nonsense. When I look at their careers in totality, Dwyane Wade has everything over him, and then just based off an eye test, skill test, whatever it may be, Dwyane Wade was the greater player on both sides of the floor. I understand where Paul is coming from as far as, you know, he was a certain 3-level scorer because Dwyane Wade was never a deadly 3-point shooter. But Paul Pierce, I'll give him 3-point shooting, but when you talk about slashing, you talk about athleticism, you talk about handles, you talk about just overall scoring, and Dwyane Wade could still hit the mid-range jumper. Dwyane Wade could get to the free throw line, as Paul stated that he could also do during his rant about how he's better. But even when you put aside just all the, oh, if I had LeBron, if I had Shaq, when we just look at a player versus player, Dwyane Wade was better. It is what it is. I'm sorry to break it to you, Paul, but that really isn't a knock at all. Paul Pierce, I understand that he's mad sometimes because people overlook him or think that he wasn't this great player, but he's on the top 75 list for a reason. But you're not in that echelon of players such as Dwyane Wade. So it's not a knock. Dwyane Wade is just a top 25 player of all time. It is what it is. But if you enjoyed this one, go ahead and check out our latest video of NBA players telling the truth about Nikola Jokic. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you over there.